Welcome to StoryGrove, where we share screen-free stories for kids without noisy advertisements. We hope you enjoy. It was a breezy afternoon on Maple Street, the kind of afternoon where the clouds looked like scoops of ice cream and the breeze carried the scent of fresh grass. Inside a cheerful yellow house at the end of the street, the living room buzzed with excitement. Shane had just turned 5 years old, and the house was filled with laughter, balloons, cupcakes, and the sound of wrapping paper being torn apart. Among the crowd of colourful balloons tied to chairs and door handles was one particular balloon that stood out, a round, shiny, sky blue balloon with a happy little grin printed across its surface. It had spent the morning swaying gently, listening to birthday songs and the cheerful chatter of children. The blue balloon had never known life beyond the living room. It had floated there contentedly, tugging lightly at its string, never questioning the limits of its little world. Until Dad left the door open. One strong gust of wind slipped through the doorway, tugging at the streamers and setting the blue balloon's string fluttering. It pulled, gently at first, then more insistently. And just like that, the knot slipped free from the back of Shane's chair. With a whoosh, the blue balloon zipped through the doorway and out onto the porch. "My balloon!" Shane shouted, leaping from his pile of birthday gifts. "Quick, get your bikes!" Lexi, Shane's younger sister, called out. In a flurry of movement, the kids raced outside, hopping on their bikes as the balloon drifted higher. The wind played with it, spinning it gently as it floated past the fence, the mailbox, and then up above the treetops. "Come back!" Shane yelled, pedaling furiously down the street. Lexi chased after him, her ponytail flying behind her like a flag. The blue balloon danced above them, bobbing and weaving, always just out of reach. Neighbours peeked out their windows to see what the commotion was about. Dogs barked. A lawn sprinkler spun in lazy circles. But the balloon kept rising, lifting higher and higher, the string trailing behind like a tail. Shane and Lexi followed as far as they could, but soon they stopped, panting, looking up at the shrinking blue dot. The balloon, for the first time in its existence, felt the tug of something entirely new. Freedom. It had spent its whole life tied to a chair, tethered in one room. Now the sky stretched open like a giant playground. The breeze carried it up past rooftops, telephone poles, and fluttering clotheslines. Below, the streets grew smaller, the people turning into tiny dots. The balloon spun gently, taking it all in. "Wow," the balloon thought, as much as a balloon could think. "This is better than hanging around by a string." It floated past chimney tops and church steeples, through patches of clouds that felt soft and cool. Birds zipped past, wings slicing through the air. A small flock of geese flew by in a perfect V formation. "Hey, where's your flock?" One goose honked, eyeing the blue balloon. The balloon wobbled happily, drifting past. The geese honked and flapped away, leaving the balloon to rise even higher. The world below transformed into a colourful patchwork quilt. Green fields stitched to golden meadows, silver rivers curling like ribbons. Toy-sized cars crawling along roads. It was dizzying and thrilling all at once. The balloon rocked with the wind, catching thermals that lifted it effortlessly. For a while, it floated peacefully, bobbing up and down in the warm currents. But freedom, the balloon soon discovered, wasn't without its dangers. As the balloon drifted toward the city outskirts, it heard a strange, growing roar. Far ahead, something large shimmered in the sunlight, a silver streak cutting through the sky. A passenger plane. The balloon's surface rippled slightly in alarm. It had never seen something so massive move so fast. The engines hummed like a swarm of enormous bees, shaking the air. The balloon tumbled, caught in the gust trailing behind the plane. It twisted wildly, spinning end over end. "Oh no!" the balloon thought, panic bubbling up inside. "I'm right in its path!" A powerful gust shoved the balloon upward. It barely skimmed above the plane's wing by mere feet, the hot air buffeting it like a leaf caught in a whirlwind. The balloon spiraled, flipping helplessly. Everything became a blur, clouds, sunlight, spinning earth below. Finally, the air calmed. The balloon steadied itself, its little grin still intact but wobbling ever so slightly. "That was close," the balloon thought, catching its breath. Not that balloons breathe, but still. It drifted on, now more alert, peeking cautiously around the open sky. As the sun lowered in the horizon, the clouds turned shades of orange and pink, painting the world in a soft, magical glow. The balloon marveled at how vast everything was from up here. Birds still zipped past occasionally, some glancing curiously at the lone blue traveller. At one point, a small sparrow fluttered beside it. "You're not from around here, are you?" the sparrow chirped. "Nope, just exploring," the balloon replied cheerfully. The sparrow laughed. "Well, watch out. The sky's not always as gentle as it looks." With a friendly flap, the sparrow zipped away. The balloon bobbed thoughtfully, letting the wind guide it. Below, forests stretched like green carpets, and rivers glimmered like snakes winding through the land. Little clusters of towns dotted the view, each one smaller and more distant, as the balloon sailed higher. It was both exhilarating and a little lonely. The balloon thought about Max and Lily. It wondered if they were still looking up at the sky, wondering where their blue balloon had gone. But there was no turning back now. The wind had its own plans. As night crept in, the stars began to appear, one by one, twinkling like tiny lanterns. The moon rose, casting silver light over the darkened earth. The balloon drifted higher still, the air cool and quiet. For the first time, the balloon realized it was truly alone, floating among the stars. But instead of feeling scared, it felt something else, wonder. It spun gently in the moonlight, gazing at the vast, sparkling sky. This wasn't just a ride on the breeze anymore. This was the beginning of something much bigger. As dawn broke over the vast horizon, the brave little blue balloon floated high above fields and forests, carried westward by strong winds. Below, the landscape slowly shifted from patchwork farmland to rugged rolling hills. The balloon swayed gently, its shiny blue surface catching the soft morning sunlight. It had travelled far from the yellow house on Maple Street, far from Max and Lily, and far from any cosy ceiling fan or birthday celebration. Every twist of wind brought something new, strange birds, winding rivers, glittering lakes. But today, something even more incredible lay ahead. Far in the distance, jagged peaks pierced the sky like the spines of an ancient dragon. Their tips sparkled white with snow, even though spring had warmed the valleys below. The Rocky Mountains, the balloon felt a flutter of excitement, as much as a balloon can feel. Never before had it seen anything so massive, so grand. The mountains rose taller and taller as the wind carried the balloon closer. Pine forest blanketed the lower slopes, stretching upward until they gave way to sheer cliffs and rocky crags. It marvelled at how small the towns and roads looked now, tiny threads winding between the hills. Herds of elk grazed in the meadows, and clear streams tumbled down the slopes like sparkling threads of silver. The balloon danced on the air currents, dipping and rising, catching glimpses of distant waterfalls and steep ravines. "What a view," the balloon thought, spinning slowly to take it all in. But as the sun climbed higher, the wind began to shift. The air felt heavier, charged with something unseen. Dark clouds gathered at the horizon, rolling in like a wall of smoke. They moved quickly, swallowing the bright blue sky, their edges tinged with purple and grey. The balloon wobbled nervously. The breeze that once carried it gently now pushed harder, swirling unpredictably. A low rumble echoed through the mountains. A storm was coming. The balloon tried to rise above the thickening clouds, but the wind howled louder, tugging it backward. Lightning flashed far below, illuminating the jagged peaks in brief bursts. The little balloon twisted and turned, struggling to stay aloft. Rain began to fall, first as mist, then as sharp cold droplets. The balloon's shiny blue surface glistened with water, each raindrop adding weight. A fierce gust shoved the balloon sideways, spinning it out of control. It tumbled wildly, glimpsing flashes of lightning and the dizzying heights of the mountains below. Suddenly, another strong gust slammed into the balloon, sending it careening toward the rocky slopes. Branches appeared out of nowhere, scraggly, reaching pine branches growing stubbornly from the peak of a tall, lonely mountain. With a sharp tug, the balloon's string caught. It swayed helplessly, tangled in the branches of a tiny, wind-battered pine tree. The storm raged around them. Thunder boomed, echoing between the peaks. Rain pelted down in sheets. The tree bent and swayed, its roots clinging desperately to the rocky ground. The balloon bobbed in the wind, its usual lightness now pinned by the branches. For a moment it felt trapped, but then something surprising happened. The little tree shuddered and spoke, its voice creaky like old wood. "Well now, what's this? Haven't had company in ages." The balloon, startled, blinked as much as a balloon can blink. "I'm just passing through," it replied, swaying, "but this storm had other plans." The tree gave a soft chuckle, its branches trembling under the rain. "You're not the first thing blown off course around here. I'm Piney. Been growing on this peak longer than I can remember. Well, I guess I'm just Balloon," the balloon replied. They braced together as the storm howled louder. The little pine tree held tight to the rocky earth, its roots gripping stubbornly. "Don't worry," Piney said, swaying. "Storms don't last forever. You just have to bend with the wind and wait." So the balloon did. It leaned into the gusts, bobbing gently as the tree anchored them both. Lightning flashed, and rain hammered down, but the balloon no longer felt alone. For hours they weathered the storm together. Between bursts of thunder they shared stories. Piney spoke of mountain goats leaping across cliffs, of eagles nesting nearby, of snowy winters and spring blooms. The balloon told tales of birthday parties, suburban streets, geese in the sky, and narrowly missing airplanes. Eventually the wind began to calm. The rain slowed to a drizzle. The dark clouds thinned, revealing streaks of pale blue sky. The storm had passed. The balloon tugged gently at its string, testing the branches. "Looks like the wind's calling you again," Piney said, shaking off droplets. "Time to keep floating." With a soft bounce, the balloon slipped free, rising above the tree. "Thank you, Piney," the balloon called as it lifted higher. The tree waved its branches. "Safe travels, little one." As the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the peaks, the balloon soared once more, the vast Rocky Mountains stretching out beneath. Ahead, new adventures awaited. But for now, the brave little balloon floated on, grateful for the company it had found on a lonely mountain peak. Thanks for listening to today's story. We hope you enjoyed it and feel calm and cozy. If you'd like more screen-free, ad-free, and wholesome stories, don't forget to follow our channel. Or hop on over to our YouTube channel for even more wholesome screen-free tales. See you next time.